Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan here at Crow Canyon. Thanks for attending today's webinar on purchase requests, purchase orders, automating your purchasing inside of SharePoint. We're just going to wait a few minutes here, wait for some folks to kind of trickle in. I know I always get it started at the top of the hour, but I give a chance to people to filter in. So just bear with me for a few minutes here. We're gonna wait, and then probably 11:03, 11:04, we're gonna get this thing kicked off. All right, so I haven't seen the attendees list jump up too much, so I think I'm just gonna get things rolling here. I'm not seeing too big of a drastic change. So again, for those who missed it, the little intro I gave, my name is Ryan. I work here at Crow Canyon. I do a lot of our product demonstrations, things like that. So I'm going to be walking us through the purchasing request application today, purchase request, purchase orders. My colleague Scott Restivo, our CEO, is going to be on the call as well. He's going to be answering questions. So if you are looking for questions, answers in real time, don't hesitate to pop a question in, and Scott will field them as they come. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so I see some existing customers in here. I appreciate it, guys. So bear with me as we get through this kind of beginning piece. But for those of you who don't know us, our kind of core business model is to build and extend on top of your existing SharePoint environment, whether it be SharePoint on-premise or SharePoint online. The idea is that, okay, I've taken this platform, I've invested in it, now how can I grow it? And we do that in one of two ways. Well, really one with a slight variation. And what I mean by that is we have this tool set called Nitro Studio. I'm not sure if on the website you guys saw anything related to Nitro Studio prior to signing up for the webinar, but essentially what it is, it's a workflow tool, forms tool, reporting tool that we use here internally to build our applications with. Nitro Studio stem from really a few things. Like it's really difficult to support out-of-the-box business applications like we're going to be talking about today, and have it relied on other third-party tools to admin create those tool sets. So us as an out-of-the-box SharePoint application company at first kind of came to this conclusion that, okay, hey, we have to have our own proprietary tool set internally, and that's where Nitro Studio stemmed from. The other side of Nitro, and this is something a little bit larger conversation, and if you want to take this one-on-one or offline, I encourage you to do so. It's more along the lines of info path replacement, right? Those familiar with kind of the older iterations of SharePoint info path know that it's being deprecated, and there may be some inconsistencies, some gaps in what Power Platform can do versus what InfoWise can do. Nitro Studio is intended to fill that gap. So the reason I like this, I kind of lay that out before we get into the product application, the product demo. It's because I'm kind of laying the groundwork as, hey, look, there's a super cool tool set called Nitro Studio that has this full info path replacement capabilities underlying this already pre-configured template, right? So you have this tool set that comes with forms and workflows a certain way, but it gives us the ability to go in and make changes, configurations specific to your environment. And the reason I preface that is because more often than not, purchasing is very, very specific to whatever organization I deal with. So that's going to be kind of the reoccurring theme today as we work through the application. It's that, hey, look, I'm going to show you, the ground level, the starting point, but in no means are we limited to what we can do with the tool. It's just a matter of, hey, are your requirements fleshed out? Is it going to be something that we can do via knowledge transfer, get you some Nitro training and set up internally, or is it something that we can work together to put up and running? Cool. So thanks for sitting through that little spiel there. Let's talk a little bit about purchase requests. So spinning up a new purchase request, right? Filling out that purchase request form, what information goes into it, what details are associated with it. And let me show you our out-of-the-box form here. Kind of our first peek into Nitro Studio. You got a little bit back here with some views on types of purchases, or purchase requests, and some reports. But this is a Nitro form. And this is, like I said, proprietary to Crow Canyon. So if we do want to capture more metadata here, we absolutely can. Description of the purchase request. Let's do a new purchase request. Priority status, budgeted, type of purchase, right? And again, these are just column drop downs, multi-line of text column or choice column in SharePoint, sorry. So we can pick and choose what we want here for the drop downs, right? For this, we'll just say hardware, make it easy. Department, maybe we'll say sales, and we'll keep it consistent with me right now. Now, one thing I will note, this is a people picker column. So SharePoint user profile, it's Active Directory. All you got to do is start typing their name, and it'll populate there for you. And then a rich text box here for reason to purchase. Screenshots, images, copy and paste. You got options. Now, the line items. What is going into this purchase request? So one of the core kind of concepts, functionality that we use in our tools is something called associated items. For those familiar with InfoPath, again, maybe repeating rows, right? But kind of the same principle, just displayed in a little different way. Essentially what we do is we've created a connection between multiple SharePoint lists inside of this application. One called purchase requests, one called purchase items. So what we're doing is we're actually connecting the two lists together through this associated items feature in our forms tool, giving us the ability to add in as many items in the purchase items list as we want, but displayed in the purchase request form. So the reason we do that is because it gives us the ability to limit our form size, limit our form load time, right? Cut down on that, and also build in some certain permissions, structures around the line items to purchase requests once they become purchase orders, which we'll talk about in a minute. But in this instance, we're also looking up to a category or to a catalog. And did I touch on permissions? Oh, let's talk a little bit about permissions real quick, because it is a piece here I want to talk about. Right now, I'm submitting a new purchase request as an end user, right, or a manager, or really whomever. And then you have people working the purchase request, and then you have the admin side of the application, folks who can come into the back end. And essentially, again, going back on that principle of multiple SharePoint lists connected together, essentially what we're doing is we're looking up to a catalog here, a purchase catalog list that gives us these lookup items available in the categories. And where that lives is in the admin center of the tool. This little wrench in the upper right-hand corner here. And what that does is it gives us the ability to build out your own purchase catalog. Things like, commonly purchased items, costs, descriptions, categories. I've even seen people put images in here. Just basically a way to display things commonly purchased for your organization and have it be presentable on the form. So I can select it. We'll say hardware asset. We'll do the Dell desktop here. It's going to pre-populate that cost, right? And then however many quantity we want. You can do things like tie vendors to the application, give it GL or accounting codes, and then again, add in as many line items as you'd like here. So if we just kind of quickly do this one more time, it proves the point, hammer it home, select something else here. Maybe we'll do an iPhone to go along with it. And now you can see we've started to build out our request, right? Request information, the reason for the request, the line items on the request. Now submit for approval. So again, I like to highlight this area because I think it's a cool kind of above and beyond what SharePoint does automatic or out of the box, right? Typically inside of a SharePoint space or a list item, kind of any SharePoint thing you're used to working with, you just have this save button, right? Hey, save the item. What's cool about this, the forms tool and the feature set really in general, the Nitro Studio feature set, again, accessible through the admin center, is that we have the ability to build on specific workflows to different lists. So in a lot of instances, wrong screen, sorry guys. A lot of instances, workflows are triggers, right? Hey, an item's created, an email is sent in, turn it into A, B, and C item, or a date's coming due, notify the person that the date's coming due, right? So sort of trigger. In this instance, we've built out a particular tool in our Nitro Studio toolset called Custom Actions. And it's essentially the same functionality as the workflow tool in terms of what it can do, but instead of it being a trigger, now we get to choose when this workflow fires off. So it's going above and beyond just being able to save a list item, because now we want to run some sort of approval workflow associated with this purchase request, right? And so what this is doing now on the back end is it's saying, okay, this has been submitted for the approval. What do I need to do here? What process do I have to go through to make sure that this happens? And let's talk about that a little bit. So you can see we were at pending approval 9, popped up to 10. So obviously we've had a new purchase request get created. We got the notification screen prior to saying, hey, it's been created successfully. So now if we go back to our admin center, let me look at the approval levels. This list, again, multiple lists tied together, I know, broken record, bear with me, is the list that we're going to read off of to associate it to the purchase request, right? Who's going to get the approval notification based on what type of purchase is submitted. And in short, it can be different levels generically. It can be types of purchase. It can be amount of purchase. It can be department of purchase, right? Now, I have seen some folks invest a lot of resources in terms of dollars spent with our team to build out a very complex approval system. I've seen people use this very generically and anywhere in between. The point being, it's got some flexibility in terms of what you can do from approval levels, right? And you can see some options that we built out here. IT specific, generically, and then across some other departments or types as well. But what happens essentially is that these approvers are going to be notified. Right, someone's going to ping them to say, hey, a new purchase request has been created. We need you to go in and approve it. Now, going back to that principle again of tying multiple lists together, we actually create an approval task list. And you can see we just created this today, right? This is the purchase request we just submitted. It's directly tied to this approval task here. And there's 2 ways you can go about it as an approver. Coming in and working through the purchase request system, I have access to this approver task list, and I can see things only specific to me, right? Role-based permissions, lock people out of things that they're not supposed to see, give them access to things that they are. And essentially, once this approval task is created, I have 3 different options. I can approve it, I can deny it, and I can send it back. Again, leveraging that custom action workflow. Custom actions workflow or manually invoked workflow to fire off these pieces. And then once I click these buttons, I'm going to get a prompt to say, what's your approval reason or what's your denial reason. You can see it's going through the proper permissions here as well. It's checking on the back end. And I can update this task through this interface as well. For sake of argument, let's just say, this is approved. Great, and I got I always call these the warm and fuzzies, the green check arrow to make sure that everything went through, we don't have to guess, right? And now it gets updated, task is updated, approved, and we're gonna send some notifications out to make sure things are approved. Now the other side, this is probably 50-50, I even think people maybe lean a little bit more towards email when it comes to the situation, but let's talk about that a little bit. So just like the approval task, where the task gets created and I have these different prompts I was just talking about, right? Oh, they went away because I approved it. Sorry. But the same situation can happen via email. And what we're doing here is we are essentially taking all the information that was created in the purchase request, a link to it, a link to that approval task I just created. Please use link below to approve, deny, or send back. So if I click on it, it's going to take me right to it. Same spot, right? Just approved it. But now I have the option to approve it via email. For lazy approvals is what I hear this commonly called in the space. but you have the choice to click one of these three options, and then you get to see some information related to the purchase request as well. You know, who's it for, reason for purchase, cost, you know, items, etc. Right? So we have some options. Now, once I select one of these, it basically takes the title of the email, comments of the email, and updates that back-end task list. So very similar to me coming in and approving the task, I can click one of those three options, writes into that choice column in the back end to update that particular task list. And then you can see those notifications here as well as we go out, submitted for approval, etc. So you can see those notifications are working live in real time. Okay, so once it's been approved, it's gone through its various levels, you know, level 1, level 2, level 3. And again, let's say in this case, for argument's sake, I'm level 1 approver. Once I approve, it goes to level 2. If it gets sent back, the end user gets notified, as well as if it's denied, right? So you can send back and have them work it, or just flat out deny it, right? But if it's approved, it goes, you know, level 2, level 3, etc. Okay, but once it's approved, now we're ready to turn it into a purchase order. Again, this is one of those ones where I see people split on. We work with some government entities, some folks who gather quotes related to purchase requests, and sometimes through the approval process, maybe the item has changed that they're purchasing, the cost, and so they need to go back in and rework the purchase request before they turn it into a purchase order. And that's just one small sample set of data for this talking point I'm about to bring up. But it's around PO generation. And so those folks maybe want to go in and actually review the purchase request before we turn it into a purchase order, versus the other side of the aisle is that some folks just want it to be automatically approved. The options are automatically generated, I should say, not approved. Sorry, I misspoke. So automatically generate a purchase order. The options there for both. I don't know. For me, I kind of like the option of having the ability to see it first, but again, to each their own. So in this case, I'm going to generate the purchase order through that workflow again, get the warm and fuzzies, PO number, everything's getting updated and transferring over to that purchase order list. So now we've taken everything here and linked it to the purchase order. One note before I move on. You can see here a new tab has popped up. So like on the purchase request tab, the new purchase request form, we just have that one tab. Once it loads here, right? This first cover sheet, we just had a tab on it. Now, as we work through this, you can see a new tab has popped up for the approval task. So in this case, and look, there it is. Your PO has been generated. But this new tab has popped up with the, you know, kind of the approval work log showing when it was approved, who approved it, what they said when they approved, etc. Again, it's the connection between the two separate lists, but it does highlight some form flexibility that we have within the Nitro Studio toolset. So not everything needs to be shown to everyone. Certain tabs can be hidden away based on certain conditions. We do have a lot of flexibility with how the forms can be designed at any stage of the workflow business process. So this is just a small sample, but it does kind of highlight some of that form flexibility. Okay, so now purchase order is created. Let's take a look at the purchase order dashboard. I gotta close some of these tabs out. I get a little OCD if I don't. So let's go to dashboard actually. Filter by purchase orders. So there's a few different options for how to view these. I mean, I just kind of want to highlight all of them since we got a little bit of time in the webinar today. Each purchase order can be, or purchase request for that matter, can be viewed as an independent entity to see kind of where we stand at that item level, right? If you want to look at more in like a project view. And then we have these different statuses, red light, green light, you know, taskbar, for lack of a better term, based on where we stand in a particular purchase order, right? So you can see kind of like a progress bar as well as some color coding. It's just a nice graphical interface for those who want to quickly point and direct someone to easily consume information related to the purchase order. a certain purchase order. But working the purchase order is very much just moving the purchase order through like kind of the status process. I think, for lack of a better term, is how I would refer to it. So where are we in the status of receiving the goods on this purchase order? Again, coming back to that custom action piece, you can see it's very heavily used here at Crow Canyon or through all of our applications. Gives you the ability to run workflows, notifications around different PO statuses. Maybe you want to keep the sales team up to date on where certain literature, whatever it is, may be, so you can update statuses, send notifications to them to make sure that they're aware that, hey, this is coming. Just real quick though, I do want to touch in here because there is a few pieces I want to talk about before I get into actually changing the status, and that is like signature columns. We have a signature column piece as a part of Nitro Studio. I'm signing with my mouse right now, but it's intended to be like sign with your finger. So you can capture a signature here, as well as, again, some more tabs within the original purchase or within the purchase order. So link back to that purchase request, some information for finance, and some ship to information. Now you're like, hold on, Ryan, let's talk about finance. I'm getting there. 1 second, I just want to fill this information out about this ship to, because it's going to come back in a second here. So while I fill this out, I will start talking about finance. Okay. So 60–70% of folks I talk to within looking at the purchase request tool are talking about connections to an ERP system, right? Hey, I need to tie this to my invoice or my finance or ERP department, right? Is that possible? The answer is yes, possible, absolutely. How we get there, it's going to depend on whatever third-party tool you're working with. I talked briefly in the beginning about connections with or some gaps maybe in the Power Platform that forced our hand to build out our Nitro Studio tool set. And one of those gaps is specifically related to the workflow tool Power Automate. And that is charging premium connectors for API connections. So X amount per user per month just to run sort of connection from a third-party tool set to your SharePoint entity, to your SharePoint environment. So that's actually included in our tool set. For those who are a little bit more technical savvy, you do have the ability to invoke a web service from our workflow, so you can push and pull information to a third-party tool set using a REST API connection. We also have the ability in the Forms tool to push and pull information from a SQL database, leveraging external data columns. So it's not configured out of the box. If that is something you're interested in, I highly suggest talking to us. We'll kind of flesh it out with you, talk to you about what that would look like, if it's something your team can do or you want to work with us to get done. But that is an option. So if we want to cut down, I mean, the main idea being cutting down on duplicate data entry, right? Not having to populate this information over or retype it in a new spot, right? We're going to give you that ability to build that connection out. Okay, so tracking statuses. I can track the purchase order as an independent entity. Update the purchase order status here. I can also track the line items as individual entities as well. So I talked about permissions earlier, and I said, hey, I'm going to come back to that. This is one of those times I was going to come back to. So when I come into this edit form, it's going to say, hey, you can't do this. You don't have proper permissions to do so. You can't come in and change this after it's already been approved and become a purchase order. So we give you the ability to then run custom actions. And again, it highlights some form flexibility, some item level permissions inside of the forms inside of SharePoint. So in this case, we're updating the quantity. Let's say I've received 5 out of the 8 printers in one go. It's going to show you what it's doing. Hey, proper permissions again, partially fulfill the purchase order, right? We got 5 out of the 8. Partially received. We can see the status is partially received, and we can see the number here. So at any time, you can pop in this, and you can see what's going on with a particular purchase order and the individual line items, both from a status here and at the line item level. Now, let's say we fast forward a week. I got the remaining 3. We need to come in and we need to update the quantity again. I think they put this in for me, the dev team. Well, I haven't got a solid answer from them yet. But let's say you're like me and you like to deal with clean numbers. Like, oh, I received 8 today. Oh, hey Ryan, you already have 5 in the inventory. So it builds in some fail safes here to make sure that you're not overpopulating lists or throwing numbers off based on human error. It's basically just saying making sure that the received quantity matches the order quantity, and so the workflow can fire off correctly. So now that this has been received, the PO status can be updated to fulfilled based on the line items here, but still we can come in and we can update this PO status independently. Now again, choice columns, right? For those familiar with SharePoint, for those not, I mean, if you choice column, you could put in a litany of choices in that drop down. For those not super familiar with the choice column in SharePoint, it's like an Excel spreadsheet. You can have multiple choices, filter by multiple choices in an Excel column. It's same principle. Just gives you the ability to populate your own statuses here, to match your internal requirements, and then this workflow just gives you the ability to kind of push it through and notify the appropriate folks. We'll say reconcile. Ready to generate a purchase order, the template. So the reason I was going through and I was filling out that signature column in the ship to column was because we have this print manager tool. It's a little piece inside of Nitro Studio. Just real quick while I'm here, kind of a plug, right? But look how much we've talked about already within Nitro Studio and how it relates to our application. Forms, workflows, we're going to get into reports in a second, but custom actions. We've seen a lot of list views, list roll-ups, list search already. So it's heavily involved with what we do in the application space. But the print tool. Printing in SharePoint is a pain. It's a headache. For anyone who hasn't tried it or who hasn't experienced it, it can be a total pain in the butt. So what we've done with our print manager tool is given you the ability to easily print SharePoint list items. Specifically, I mean, the biggest use case seriously for us is purchase orders, right? We need to be able to create a print template specific to me that I can spit out directly related to this purchase order. So in this instance, we're looking at like an all items list. We do have the ability to build a custom rich text list template. Gives you the ability to map over items from the purchase order and build out a header and footer specific to your organization. Again, this is easily can be HTML or images. So the finished product will look a little something like such. Information in the header about us, right? Copying information over from the date and the purchase order number. The ship to information, our line items, the amount, and the person who authored and signed it. So now you can see we've basically taken that culmination of all of the information here and we slammed it into the purchase order to be sent, to the vendor, to printed, to PDF and stored, but you have the ability now to send this as an attachment really to whomever you choose, right? It does not have to be a Outlook account, it doesn't have to be within your organization. It could easily be sent to anybody. There we go. Okay. So last little bit here, touch on is vendors. So it's kind of like it's a lightweight vendor track. Oh, 2 more things. I lied. I'm sorry. I want to talk about reports too. But vendors, it's just a way to store vendor information against that, within the application. A lot of things from purchase requests get tied back to vendors. You can select from the vendors list on the purchase line item form. You can also create new vendors at any time. So you have some options here in terms of what you can do. I mean, heck, I've even seen some folks put some workflows around the vendor list to make sure that someone approves the vendor before it gets added to the list as well. So again, pretty granular with what you can do. Reporting. So a few different options for reporting. I'm going to, click on some things while I'm talking here. So we have our Nitro reporting tool included in the Nitro Studio apps. I'm going to get into it in a second. I've also seen some folks use some other pieces here for reports. Let's get those prepped. So the report center, Nitro reports. The easy way to say it, I say it a lot actually, you know, I feel like I repeat myself, but the easy way to say it is that as long as the information lives within the system, we can report on it. It's a reportable entity. And in this case, in our reporting tools case, it's typically on a list or set of lists, and then a couple of X and Y axes within that list. So purchase orders by department, purchase orders by month, right, by count, purchase requests by various statuses. So it kind of gives you an idea. We love pie charts, here we go. So it kind of gives you an idea of what you can do from a reporting perspective. We're just going to take a quick peek on the covers here to touch on that. So, like I said, a list or a multitude of lists that you can roll up into. We have the list itself and then the different views that you can report on. So if you are pretty crafty and you want to create different views on your SharePoint list and report on those views, all possible, right? Okay, and then we have different chart types. Let's do line chart. That is a line chart, just kidding. Sorry guys, bar chart. And you can also do a table as well, or you have the option for both. So table, bar, etc. And like I was saying, in this case, it's a x-axis and count, right? We're counting the number by month on that particular view. You can also have a y-axis here as well. Cool things like adding in, building in your own custom theme, absolutely have the possibility to, if that's a little bit, if that's what you're into, but by no means do you have to. So you have control over the reporting tool. This is intended to be more on the graphical interface side, right? So you see, you've seen these embedded in, you've seen these embedded in our dashboards as I kind of work through this, right? This is heavily used with our tiles web part displayed here, right? So you can see the tiles and some of whatever really reports that you want embedded within the dashboard to show across the departments. The other piece, as I was bringing up the purchase request list. So it really just depends on how you want to tackle this, but I have seen people, you know, leverage the export to Excel feature here. And you know, that's obviously possible to export to Excel. And then the other choice here too is to actually leverage our print manager, which I don't think I have set up on this site, but I'm just going to quickly pull up another site while I talk about it. Basically, it's being able to pull out raw data in a PDF format based on a list view. So being able to create columns specific to, you know, whatever sort of information that you want to generate into a PDF report. I'm just going to go on the tickets list here so I know I have it. So my list print feature, I can now, going back to our print manager template, I can do it at the item level, but I can also do it at the list level, meaning I can just print multiple items and I can collect certain columns on those items that I want to print on. So at any time, if you want to pull information out of the purchasing system and have it be, you know, reported on from a raw data perspective, you can always do this option as well. Okay, so talked about reporting, talked about purchase request creation, approval process, purchase orders, approving via email, approval tasks, things like that, working at 3 different statuses, generating a PDF purchase order. I think, you know, guys, I covered everything that I wanted to get through today. We talked about the admin section. We touched a little bit on Nitro Studio. Again, if you are interested in Nitro Studio, please oh, that's right. I knew there's one thing I was forgetting. I apologize. There is one last piece here. For those on Office 365, there is this, you know, moving shift towards Teams and Teams' interaction with Office 365. Basically, it's become a wrapper to SharePoint, right? You know, Teams is kind of a hybrid between what Skype was, SharePoint is, and they put it into one common interface. Now it's Teams. Crocanian's growth in the 365 space really recently has been focused around the bots and Teams channel. So for those in Office 365, we have a few options with what you can do from the Teams space. One being having the application embedded in a Teams channel. So being able to display the interface to the end users, to the technicians through the Teams channel, like such. So I think this is IT, but same idea, right? It's just grabbing the SharePoint site and then deploying it here, right? Being able to see the application inside of Teams, both from the technician side as well as the portal side. And then the other piece here is the Nitro bots. So this is something that we've really progressed. I think, in my opinion, we're kind of a leader in the space, especially within SharePoint team space. It's giving the ability to have bots embedded within Microsoft Teams. Now, this is going to come in more handy for the approver side of things. So we talked a little bit about the email approval. I was showing you the task, but leveraging these bots with different commands gives us the ability to see your approvals. We don't really see anything with inside of the wherever the bot's pointed to, and let's call it the Crocandy Business Suite, right? It gives us the ability to see what commands we have options of, and then being able to act and see those commands, right? So in this case, we're gonna view my pending approvals. So as a technician, I can type, I think it's just, I can even type something as simple as approve, but I can see all approvals associated with my name specific to, well, really any option, but to the purchase order request system. So I want to, type in approve to the Nitro bot, have it pop up, show the option for me to approve the request right here in the same interface without ever having to leave. I can do so as well. Very easy to, very easy to use, very intuitive for even the folks who are not that tech savvy. We're more accustomed to using Teams now. It's a very simple, like we just walked through, pop up, hit approve, write in a comment, and it does the approval process for you. Very cool. I'm starting to get more and more comfortable with them as well. So, I only see this as the future. The more and more Microsoft gets embedded in Teams as well. Well, guys, we had an hour planned. Purchasing always takes a little early, so I was kind of planning on being wrapped up around 11:40 my time, which we're just coming up on that time frame here. So any questions, now would be the time to pop them in. Or Scott, did any questions get answered while I was plugging away here?
No, I didn't. Oops, no, I didn't see any questions there, and I think people are paying attention to your presentations. If they have questions, they can always contact us at sales@crocan.com and discuss it and get one-on-one demos. To see what their purchasing process is required, what they're using now. Are you using Excel? Some people might be using Google Docs. Some people using emails. Those kind of systems is very important to get off of and use an organized system like this to track these requests. You got the reporting, you got approvals, you've got permissions, way better, many more features, not to mention the SharePoint and Office 365 and Teams integration. So those are all really positive reasons to move off of some legacy system, whether it's InfoPath or even primitive stuff like spreadsheets or email or even paper for that matter, right? Right. Yeah. And we see that quite a bit.
Very often. Most folks are coming from a paper-based process.
Right. We know purchasing at every organization is a little different. It has its own kind of particular features, processes, approvals, workflows. So we're making our system adaptable to all those cases. Sometimes it requires a little bit of work to get it where you want it to be, but that's very doable. We have a lot of integration with outside databases and financial systems that we can add in. And we could expand the catalog and the vendor list. It really depends on what's needed, and that's why it's important to have the conversation. Say, hey, this is what we're doing, what we'd like to do in SharePoint and Office 365. Can Crocanyon do it? And using the power of Nitro Studio, our application creation platform, usually we can meet those needs quite easily through it's a low code, no code platform, Nitro Studio. So it's really not that hard. Not that complex, it isn't complex programming. It's just a matter of certain configurations to get what needs to be done as far as a workflow or approval or custom action or whatever, or an integation with an external database, just configuration more than coding, right? That's what we see, right, Ryan? Right, Ryan?
That's exactly right.
Can it be customized for only contract management? Yes, we do actually have a program that is contract management renewal, and we, again, contract management depends on what kind of contracts they are. Are you doing redlining, going back and forth with the vendors, external, internal? But really, this we do have a contract management program that can integrate with the purchasing as well as our other, help desk and other applications. So contract management, you didn't cover that though, right? I mean, Ryan, right? And take a look at it.
We did not cover contract management today, though. No.
Just briefly, it is a program that helps manage contract renewals and generation. We can add in generation of contracts if we need to, but basically it's managing. It's like document management at a more complex level of who's responsible for the contract, when it renews, what approval processes are there, how much money is involved. With the renewal, is it a warranty, a license, a subscription, a professional services contract, and all kinds of different things in there. And we can show anyone or work with anyone on the contract management side if you're interested in provide a solution inside of SharePoint Office 365 for contract management quite easily. We have a program there already. It ties right in with purchasing if needed, right there, Ryan?
That's right. That's right. The two can go hand in hand.
Right. Good. Okay, good. Thanks. All right. I think a big step forward is to do a talk individually about what your needs are. Ryan, what do you think the best course for that is?
Yeah, you can either reach out to me directly. My personal email is my first name dot my last name at crowcanyon.com, Ryan.Stefani. The simple one is sales@crowcanyon.com. Either way, we'll get that. Set up a time to chat. Since you've seen the application already in some detail, the conversation is a little bit more pointed, going into your specific requirements, and then talking about how we can make that the application tied to you. So I think that's the best next step. Reach out, let's do a little one-on-one demo, talk about what you guys are looking for and how it can be applied to the tool set.
Sounds good. And if you're interested in any of the other applications, we can work with you on that also. There's many business processes that we automate inside of SharePoint and Office 365, and that could be SharePoint on premises or Office 365. And Teams, like Ryan said, Teams is a very important player now, and we're introducing these bots more and more. I wouldn't even say introducing, we've got them on there for 2-3 years now, and we're going we're already in Nitro Bots 2.0.
Yeah, we're in. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. So thanks, Ryan, for the presentation, and thanks everyone for attending it. And Ryan, maybe some closing remarks.
Yeah. You guys, I don't think we'll have a time to show the contract management piece right now. Scott kind of chatted about it, but if you are interested, I'll reach out to you independently and we can set up a time for contract management. I also have some videos I can send you as well on that piece. But I see your question here. I'll get that information over to you as soon as we hop off the call. Well, thanks everyone for attending. Scott, thanks for answering questions, helping us out here at the end, and everyone have a nice rest of your day.
Thank you.